Warning, F-bombs are armed and may be dropped. I read yesterday, or I saw a video rather yesterday about a mass shooting in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Baltimore, Maryland. Um, a whole bunch of problems came up real quick. First of all, by the FBI's definition, it's not a mass shooting. This is not the definition that they set. It was the definition that was imposed upon them by Congress. There's only 2 dead. That's not a mass shooting, according to the orders of Congress. So let's move on. Situation was that there was a block party. Now, okay, block parties are not actually bad things. I don't have a problem with that. There was no police presence. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. Um, things are going along okay, and then 2 guys open fire on the crowd. 2 are dead. 28 are injured. 5 seriously. Okay. There's video of people fleeing the scene. They're running up a street. Most of them are running up the street. There's one that stumbles, and a few that are walking as if maybe they aren't aware of what's going on. Probably something else. I don't know. I don't care. That's the only video of the shooting that I've found so far. Um, Post-shooting video at the scene indicates this is probably a housing project. That being the case, there's probably security video somewhere. I just haven't seen it yet. All this being what it may. I want to ask you gun control supporters a really, really important question here. It's a fairly simple one. What would your ideas have done to prevent this? Maryland forbids you to even own a firearm, much less carry it concealed without a permit. You can't carry it open carry without a permit. That means you can't have it on you. You can't own it. You can't have it on you. Nothing without a permit. It's kind of like California, but a little bit stricter on that ownership part. But it gets worse. Um, the One of the big complaints made of the police is that they weren't around. Where were the cops? Why didn't they show up? Cops didn't even know this was going on. That's where they were. They were off chasing robbers and murderers that they knew about. And until the shooting started, there was nothing they could do. The 2 shooters, I want to emphasize that. It wasn't one guy, it's 2. Now, strictly speaking, according to the FBI, yeah, sure, that would still qualify as a mass shooting, but no. No, 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 no. This was something that was planned. You can't have 2 people show up to the same scene and start shooting unless there's a plan. That means that there was an underlying criminal intent. Mass shooting requires that there be no other underlying criminal intent. Oh dear, oh dear. That's a problem, isn't it? Let's get right to the point here. This is probably a gang related shooting. The 2 that died may or may not have had anything to do with the casus belli of the shooters. The weapon has been described as automatic. Mm, until I see the security footage from the project itself that tells us what really happened, it's hard to, it's impossible to say that that's true or false. Right. Automatic weapons have a very distinctive, different sound than the exact same weapon in a semi-auto mode. You fire an M16 in semi, it sounds one way. You fire it in automatic, it sounds burst. It sounds a little bit different. It's because it's a steady rate of discharge, so the sounds overlap a specific way that even rapid fire in semi-automatic, a human just can't do it, or I've never seen it happen at very least. These two, I'm gonna make not a. I'm not guessing when I say that these two should not have had a weapon of any sort. That they were fundamentally disabused their right. I did say right this time to keep and bear arms. These were criminals. The long story short, they were criminals. They shouldn't have had the guns to begin with. They did anyways. You gun control supporters out there, I'd like you to explain to me how your ideas would have stopped them to begin with. Because all I'm seeing is cop outs and excuses, left and right. Oh, it's all the gun's fault. No. Oh, we took 1,300 illegal arms or illegal guns. 1,300 illegal guns by what metric? Tell me the metric you used. Were they federally banned? Were they state banned? Were they simply illegal because the person who had it should not have had a weapon? Strangely enough, that wasn't addressed. And I'm going to accept the 1,300 as a reflection of firearms only, not clubs, knives, brass knuckles. God knows I've never ever seen a set of brass knuckles in my life. No, none of that shit. Just guns. How many of those 1,300 put it in anybody else's hand and it would have been fine? Yeah, that's one good way of pumping those that that probably closer to 500 up, wasn't it? There, Scott. Yeah, it's Mayor Scott of Baltimore. For those of you that don't know, now I feel bad about the people who were shot, and even more so about those who died. But at the end of the day, propping them up, using them as props for a political discussion like this is just disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And I know you're not. So here's me propping them up. They would not be dead now if the crowd had been armed. The two shooters would 99% more likely have not done this than had done it if they had known that there was uh, about 100 about 100 people supposedly were there. At least uh, 25 were there, we know, because 20 or 30 were there, because 28 or 28 were injured. Two more were killed, right? Saying 1 in 3 were hit, that's not exciting numbers, to be honest with you. That sounds pretty on par. But more importantly, if even let's say everybody at the party was hit, 30 people, right? The two shooters had known 15 of them would definitely be armed. They wouldn't have bothered. They wouldn't have come, or they would have gotten out of the car with guns already out and shooting before they even finished getting out of the vehicle. It really is as simple as that. I want to address some other complaints. First of all, where were the cops? Well, the cops didn't know. I have a really interesting counter question. If the people at the party were so concerned, why didn't they call the cops beforehand to make sure that somebody was around? The time I got arrested, it was me and my then girlfriend in a situation that to a normal person might have looked a little sketchy. Yeah, I'll grant that. We didn't call the cops. We didn't think we needed to. It was just going to be the two of us. Well, somebody saw, and it is what it is. But this was not in a particularly um, open situation. Leave it at that, right? There shouldn't have been anybody around to see what was going on. Bad luck, bad timing. We got saw. We got caught in the middle of it. Okay, fine. This was way out in the open, in the middle of a housing project. Everybody in 4 blocks in any direction, quarter of a mile in every direction, would have known something's going on over there. If you were this concerned about about somebody showing up, why didn't you call the cops and tell them, "Hey, we're having a block party down such and such cross streets. Could you have somebody swing by, or at very least tell the officers in the neighborhood that everything's fine and we're all good here." They didn't do that themselves. Sometimes you have to take a little responsibility for yourself. All right. Obviously, even mandatory carry won't solve every situation, won't prevent every situation. This one, it absolutely would have stopped. And now my real rants. I heard about this incident. I live in Reno, Nevada. Why did I hear about it? What is this incident to me? Well, it's national news for no particular reason. It did not need to be national news. And Brent and Fix Bayonets and Papa Carey, and even my younger brother, the one who kind of supports the notion, all of them have said that my idea of including uh, a prohibition about reporting an incident like this outside the market where it occurred is a bad idea. Well, I'm going back to some wise advice that I was given back in 2003 from somebody who I respect, a first class bosun mate. Gary, when the whole world is telling you that you're wrong, it's time to sit down and listen. Yeah, he said sit down and listen. Slight pause, and he continued, "You may be right, but it's time to sit down and listen." Well, okay, right? Fix, uh, dad, little brother, everybody else. I did sit down and listen. I did think about it. I'm really thinking that I was right to begin with, and we need to include that clause into Dataslav that you cannot report a shooting or other violent crime outside the market in which it occurred. This means CNN would not be able to report these sort of things anymore. Um, uh, MSNBC would not be able to report these sort of things anymore because it's a local story. Now, I saw it on the website for a local television station, and that's fine. They had no specific purpose outside their own market. If we have to set it up so that people outside a market can't see it, well, then VPNs would get around that anyway, and people would still see it. But if you're not in that local market, you can't report it. It really is none of your fucking business. And more importantly, reporting it on a national scale, a local story on a national scale like this, especially a violent crime, is just an attempt to intimidate and terrorize people. Hey, look, this horrible thing happened here. It has nothing to do with you. It was 3,500 miles away, but it's this horrible thing, and you should be afraid. That is exactly how terrorism works. You may not be the victim of the violence. It may not have happened to you. It may not have affected you, but we're going to terrorize you into thinking it does affect you 3,500 miles away so that you will do what we say. All right. I got not much more to say about this. I hope these two are brought to justice or that their bodies are brought in more precisely. Um, I feel bad for the families of the two that died. I feel bad for the uh, 28, excuse me, that were injured. There is actually nothing else we can do. Thoughts and prayers didn't work. It's time to start taking real action. Keep calm and mandatory carry on.